Today is March the 2nd. Today we hear the evil eye. We're in the 5th section of the Sermon on the Mount. Let's continue reading Matthew chapter 6, verses 22 and 23. The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Boy, this is confusing. Jesus talks about the evil eye here. If your eye is good, great, you'll be full of light. But if your eye is evil, you'll be full of darkness. What in the world does he mean? He is actually quoting an Old Testament idiom from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 15, verse 9. New Revised Standard Version says, "Be careful that you don't entertain a mean thought, thinking the 7th year, the year of remission, is near, and therefore view your needy neighbor with hostility and give nothing." King James actually says what the text literally says. If your eye is evil towards your neighbor and you give him nothing, and then it goes on. Let's read that entire chapter of Deuteronomy 15 to find out what the law is talking about. Stick around afterward and we'll figure out what Jesus was trying to say.
Deuteronomy 15, 1 through 18, New Revised Standard Version. Every 7th year you shall grant a remission of debts, and this is the manner of the remission. Every creditor shall remit the claim that is held against a neighbor, not extracting it, because the Lord's remission has been proclaimed. Of a foreigner you may extract it, but you must remit your claim on whatever any member of your community owes you. There will, however, be no one in need among you, because the Lord is sure to bless you in the land that the Lord your God is giving you as a possession to occupy. If you will obey the Lord your God by diligently observing this entire commandment that I command you today, when the Lord your God has blessed you, as he promised you, you will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. You will rule over many nations, but they will not rule over you. If there is among you any in need, a member of your community in any of your towns within the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward your needy neighbor. You should rather open your hand, willingly lending enough to meet the need, whatever it may be. Be careful that you do not entertain a mean thought, thinking, the 7th year, the year of remission, is near, and therefore view your needy neighbor with hostility and give nothing. Your neighbor might cry out to the Lord against you, and you would incur guilt. Give liberally and be ungrudging when you do so, for on this account the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in all that you undertake, since there will never cease to be some in need on the earth. I therefore command you, open your hand to the poor and the needy neighbor in your land. If a member of your community, whether a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you and works for you for 6 years, in the 7th year you shall set that person free. And when you send a male slave out from you, a free person, you shall not send him out empty-handed. Provide for him liberally out of your flock, your threshing floor, and your wine presses, thus giving him some of the bounty with which the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. For this reason I lay this command upon you today. But if he says to you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your household, since he is well off with you, then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his earlobe into the door, and he shall be your slave forever. You shall do the same with regard to your female slave. Do not consider it hardship when you send them out from you free persons, because for 6 years they have given you service worth the wages of hired laborers, and the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do.
So there in the middle of that passage, if your eye is evil toward your neighbor and you give him nothing. The evil eye is an idiom in the Old Testament for being stingy. The evil eye is the opposite of generosity. What Jesus is saying here is if your eye is healthy, it's the opposite of having an evil eye. It's the opposite of stinginess. If you are generous, that's a good thing. So what is Jesus talking about? Well, here in this entire section, he's talking about a person's relationship to money and possessions. He started off saying, if the driving force in your life is accumulating treasure, it will eat you up. Now he says, if you do have treasure, be generous with it. Give it away. The next section, he talks about mammon, the god of wealth. And then he ends up talking about anxiety over the lack of wealth. In all of this section, he is talking about our relationship to our possessions. So what do we do today? Examine your checkbook. Where is your money being spent? Have you been generous? If you haven't, start. Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version by Emily Herrera. Do you have a question? Drop it in the comments section of whatever platform you use to listen to this devotional.